The North Atlantic churns beneath me as I stand on the deck of the Poseidon's fist oil rig, my home for the past 3 months. The wind whips my face, carrying the ever-present scent of brine and metal. I've been telling myself I'm used to this isolation, 200 miles from the nearest shore. But lately, something feels off. It started small, about a month ago. I was doing maintenance on one of the drill pipes when I realized my wrench was missing. I could have sworn I'd just set it down, but it was gone. After searching for an hour, I gave up and got a new one from the tool room. The next day, I found the missing wrench in my locker. I figured I must have absent-mindedly put it there, but a seed of unease had been planted. Then came the noises. At first, just the usual creaks and groans of the rig settling. But soon, I started hearing something else. Rhythmic thumps and scrapes coming from deep within the structure, almost like footsteps. But not quite. The cadence was off, inhuman. I reported it to the chief engineer, but the sounds always stopped before anyone else could hear them. About 2 weeks ago, the nightmares began. Vivid, terrifying visions of things lurking in the depths below. Massive tentacles writhing in the blackness. Pale, inhuman faces pressing against my cabin porthole. I'd wake gasping, the taste of salt water on my tongue, though I knew I hadn't left my bunk. The dreams felt so real, so visceral, that I'd find myself checking the porthole for smears or suction marks. The worst part is, I'm starting to see things when I'm awake too. Shadows moving at the corner of my eye, shapes in the waves that are too big, too wrong to be any known sea creature. Last week I could have sworn I saw a massive eye, easily the size of a car, staring up at me from just beneath the water's surface. When I blinked, it was gone. And it's not just me. The other workers are changing. Martinez, usually a chatterbox, hasn't spoken in days. I found Chen staring at the water for hours, unblinking. When I shook him, he looked at me with empty eyes and shambled off without a word. Even our rig manager, stern old Johnson, seems off. I caught him muttering to himself in some language I've never heard before. His eyes rolled back in his head. I tried to radio for help, but all I got was static and something else. A sound like whispering, but in no language I've ever heard. It made my skin crawl and my head ache. I slammed the radio off, my hands shaking. We're cut off out here, adrift in a sea of mounting horrors. Unable to sleep, I've taken to wandering the rig at night. The shadows seem to move differently after dark, coalescing into shapes that disappear when I look directly at them. The constant hum of machinery takes on an almost musical quality, like a dirge played on alien instruments. That's how I found the paintings. Hidden away in a storage room I swear wasn't there before. Crude, childlike drawings covered the walls. But the subject matter. God, I wish I could scrub the images from my mind. Cosmic horrors rising from the sea. Tentacles and eyes and gaping maws. And in the center, a childish depiction of our rig being dragged down into darkness. The paint looked fresh, still wet in places. But who could have done this? When? I ran from that room, but I can't escape the feeling that those images showed me a truth I wasn't meant to see. As the days passed, the atmosphere on the rig grew heavier, more oppressive. The sky seemed darker, the clouds roiling with unnatural patterns. The sea became choppier, waves crashing against the rig with what felt like malicious intent. Even the air tasted different, thick, oily, with an underlying flavor of decay. And then I saw it. Really saw it, not just a glimpse or a shadow. I was on the lower deck when the water began to churn. Something vast rose to the surface, a slick, oily mass of tentacles and eyes, and things I have no words for. It was there for just a moment before sinking back down, but that moment stretched into an eternity of horror. My mind keeps trying to rationalize it. A trick of the light, a hallucination, but deep down, I know. The others saw it too. I could tell by their faces when I ran back inside, but no one said a word. They just stared at me with those dead eyes, those twisted little smiles. Some of them were bleeding from their eyes and ears, dark ichor that seemed to move of its own accord. Last night, the chanting started. Guttural sounds no human throat should make, echoing across the waves. I barricaded myself in my cabin, but I could still hear them. Still hear it, that thing in the water, answering their call. The metal walls of my cabin vibrated with the force of it, and I swear I could see shapes forming in the trembling surface, eldritch geometries that hurt my eyes to look at. I understand now. This rig, it was never about oil. It's a beacon, a sacrifice, a summoning. We were never meant to drill down. We were meant to call something up. All those miles of pipes and equipment, they weren't extracting anything. They were creating a conduit, a gateway for something ancient and terrible to return to our world. The realization hit me like a physical blow. How long has this been planned? How many other rigs, other crews, have been sacrificed to this cosmic horror? Is our entire industry just a front for some cult seeking to awaken slumbering gods? I'm speaking into this recorder now because I don't know how much longer I'll be me. I can feel it creeping into my mind, whispering, promising, offering knowledge and power beyond human comprehension in exchange for my sanity, my soul. The others have already given in. Their minds traded for revelations man was never meant to know. The rig is changing too. The metal is warping, twisting into impossible shapes. I've seen rooms that are bigger on the inside than they should be, corridors that lead to places that can't exist. Reality itself seems to be breaking down around us. I hear something slithering outside my door. The metal is bulging, warping. I don't think it will hold much longer. The air is thick with the stench of the sea, and something else, something ancient and wrong. If anyone finds this recording, stay away. Nuke this whole site from orbit. Pray to whatever god you believe in that it's not too late, because something ancient and hungry has awakened in the depths, and it will never rest until it consumes us all. The door is opening now. I see tentacles, eyes, a maw of endless teeth. I see infinity, and it terrifies me. But there's a part of me, God help me, a part that wants to embrace it, to let go of my humanity and become one with this cosmic horror. I see everything, the truth of our reality, laid bare before me. We are so small, so insignificant in the grand scheme of things, mere motes of dust in an uncaring universe filled with entities beyond our comprehension. It's beautiful, it's terrible, it's... The recording cuts off abruptly, replaced by a wet, slithering sound and a scream that becomes a gurgle before fading into silence. In the background, a deep, rhythmic pulsing can be heard, like the heartbeat of some monstrous creature. The recording ends with a sound like rushing water and creaking metal, as if the entire rig is being dragged down into the depths.